Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host for the show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our Spot On series. Spot On has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called Spot On Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom and pop restaurants. To learn more, go to spoton.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done For You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. Joanna Gossett and her husband are serial entrepreneurs. She owns and operates an executive recruiting practice, manages real estate, handles administration for their fitness clubs, pizza shops, and cell phone stores, and serves as area representative for Romeo's Pizza, a franchise that's rapidly growing across the U.S. Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Chad. Excited to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. Hey, as far as I can tell, you are currently involved with 5 different entrepreneurial and professional endeavors all at the same time. Let's kind of go through them all one by one and talk about kind of how you got started and everything like that. Let's start with the most recent. Last year, I was kind of looking at your LinkedIn page. You became a retail partner for AT&T with stores in South Carolina. How did you come about that, and what goes into that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. So my husband, he's definitely the driver of all of our entrepreneurial endeavors. And I've been along for the ride and pulled in.
Sure.
But so his background is in wireless sales for 15 plus years at the regional VP level, and below that, I mean, he worked his way up from a sales rep position, and he's worked for all the major carriers and was approached by AT&T a number of years ago now about becoming an agent partner with them. And it all kind of came to fruition in the last year or so. And now we opened our first store. Integrity Stores is the name of our company for our AT&T stores. And we opened our first location in Anderson, South Carolina in December of 2022. And he has LOIs in the works for a number of other locations that we're going to be opening in this year and in the future.
Okay, so you'd been a franchisee for other things and opened other businesses, but this is the first cell phone store. How's that going so far?
You got it. Yeah, great. We're off to a great start. It's an awesome location. It's a beautiful building, brand new construction, ground up. So that came with challenges, of course, but we're kind of used to that process now with these other franchises that we've built out too.
How much work as a franchisee does he have to put in that store directly?
In the store currently, or so I mean, we have a great team. He has a director that worked for him in a previous wireless company that actually moved up here from Florida to help run the operations for him. He's kind of the boots on the ground, and my husband's, he's somewhere every day doing things, putting out fires. I mean, he's busy.
Sure. So in 2021, you started as an area representative and franchise owner for Romeo's Pizza. Just kind of tell me, for those of us who haven't been a customer of Romeo's, what's the customer experience like there at Romeo's?
So Romeo's Pizza is very unique. We were customers way before we ever even thought about becoming a franchisee with them. My husband and I have 0 restaurant experience. Well, he was a busboy in high school, but beyond that, 0 restaurant experience before we chose to franchise with them. But the product is really what just sold us on Romeo's. It became our pizza spot because it has a very unique sauce. We have vine ripe tomatoes that are bottled or from vine to can in less than 24 hours, straight from California. The product is just so delicious. And the sweet sauce, there is none other like Romeo's sauce. I crave pizza a lot, but if I'm craving Romeo's, there's no other pizza that can satisfy that craving. It has to be Romeo's.
So yeah, on the website it says the secret is in the sauce. Can you describe what the sauce tastes like?
Yeah, so it's sweet. Like you can taste the sweetness, but it's also savory at the same time. Um, but it's tomato heavy for sure. And I'm not a tomato sauce lover, like pasta, spaghetti. I'm not a real marinara girl, so it's not like that. I mean, it's just very unique and light. You just have to try it. I mean, it's hard to describe.
So last year, I'm sorry, 2022, you got involved with AT&T. Now in 2021, it's Romeo's. You had been a franchisee owning fitness clubs. What made Romeo's an attractive franchise opportunity for you?
Yeah, great question. So my husband and we both worked for other people in, I guess, still in 2020, early 2020, prior to pandemic. I am a career executive recruiter, have spent, the last 10 years of my life doing executive recruiting within property management and real estate. And my husband's always had this entrepreneurial itch, and we have a passion for helping other people. And he was a Division II athlete in college. So he's always had kind of an itch to be involved with fitness. And it's been a big part of his life. And rewind a little bit more too. He actually tore his Achilles tendon in 2016. And that was he was at a charity basketball tournament playing, 60 pounds overweight, for his build, and tore his Achilles. And it really humbled him and both of us, really, because we just realized, like, you took for granted walking, right? Mm-hmm. And so that really prompted him to want to be involved in the fitness industry in some way. So then he started investigating, just researching different franchise options, and Anytime Fitness is who we decided to franchise with. And we opened our first club in 2018. And it was going really good. I mean, we were still a new club, right, when the pandemic hit. We were still kind of in those early stages, still growing. And obviously that just crushed us. We had to close down completely. Everybody was afraid of gyms. So at that point, when we're working for other people, so at least we had steady paychecks coming in, that helped with making payroll. We didn't lay off anybody during the pandemic, which, we felt really good about, because these is their livelihoods, and, anyway, we decided we need to diversify. And that was the biggest reason why we said, okay, we can't put all our eggs in this basket. We need to look at companies that have thrived through this, and are continuing to make money and survive and even growing. And pizza was one place where that was the case.
So that's interesting. A lot of people thought during the pandemic that restaurants were like the hardest hit, but in this case, Romeo's was an attractive option. Is it because of the delivery model?
Yeah, so it's a delivery and carry out only. So, and their numbers just continued to skyrocket during the pandemic and after. And so one was the product. Two was that it is delivery and carry out. Three, the franchise it's been around since 2001. It was started in Medina, Ohio. So it's been around a long time, but they've been just really in Ohio. They had about 50 locations, and have just started in the last couple of years growing outside of the area. And that was super attractive for us as well. My husband was actually ready to sign a franchise agreement with another top 5 pizza chain when Romeo's actually reached out to him, and the timing was just perfect. And it was a no-brainer once we just looked at everything. And one of those biggest reasons was the geography that was available within Romeo's. He was going to have to manage these other pizza restaurants if he had signed that franchise agreement in very specific remote locations. And now we have the joy of being able to bring this amazing pizza to an area where it's never really been before. We only have 3 locations in the state right now. So that's exciting. And that was a big selling point for us too, in that we'd be able to pick our areas.
And you guys are in South Carolina?
Yeah, we're in South Carolina.
And do you own all 3 of those locations?
So no, so there's another franchisee that owns, there's a location. They're all in the upstate of South Carolina right now, but we're in talks with some franchisees that are getting close to making decisions on areas in the central part of the state and the coastal areas, what they call the coastal regions and the Midlands. But yeah, so we own a location in Easley, South Carolina, which it's about 45 minutes from Greenville, if you know anything about South Carolina or the upstate. And then we have another location that will be opening next month in Clemson, South Carolina. And then another one in the works, but we don't have an LOI signed yet.
So what goes into being a franchisee with Romeo's?
So they have a really great business model. They have a pretty in-depth online platform too for all employee training. I mean, I knew nothing about cutting a pizza, making dough temperature. I mean, all these things, all the recipes, everything's already laid out for you. So that was another thing that's attractive about franchising, especially someone with no pizza experience. So, I mean, you got to select your restaurant and your real estate, and the Romeo's corporate team helps with all of that. I mean, they told us what we needed to order, like from how many baking pans you need. I mean, the whole thing. They've figured it out for you, and they really can give you as much support as you need or as little as you need if you have a lot of experience.
So you had been, as you mentioned, for your reason for joining Romeo's was you had been a franchisee with Anytime Fitness and now Romeo's and also AT&T. What's the biggest difference among the three in terms of operating, one to the other?
So the fitness clubs is a lot less staffing. It's a very lean model because it's a 24-hour fitness club. Our members have key fobs and they can come and go as they please. And we're staffed during certain hours of the day. We're not staffed that whole 24 hours. So we've had really some long tenured, great people that have helped us in that business and that run our day to day, which allows myself and my husband to do other things and continue to grow. So I would say staffing, obviously in pizza and the restaurant world, we're in a tough time period right now. I mean, it's always tough in the restaurant industry to keep people, attract good people, especially in your sort of infancy stages. But my recruiting background has come in handy. I recruited our general manager that runs our Easley location. She is great. She has a ton of pizza experience. She teaches us stuff every day. So we've been fortunate with some of that, and she's brought people with her too. So, but staffing, there's definitely more turnover with the pizza restaurant, and then the employees for the AT&T has been an outstanding partner to partner with. They've provided a ton of support for us as a partner with them throughout the process too, and But the staffing there, it's just a little different. We're just talking about a little bit of different types of people, more of a professional in the AT&T atmosphere, and a little bit more of your rough around the edges people sometimes in the pizza world. And it's just awesome to be able to interact with so many different types of people and help them achieve their dreams.
So not only are you a franchise owner with Romeo's, you're an area representative. Does that mean you're looking for other franchisees?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. So my husband and I purchased the rights to the South Carolina territory. So we are actively searching for new franchisees and put them through our screening process, to potentially open their own restaurants for the franchise. And then we support them along the way as well.
What do you look for in a franchisee, and what's kind of your pitch?
Yeah. So, I mean, we look for someone who has run a successful business in the past of some type. It doesn't have to be huge. And again, you don't need restaurant experience necessarily. There's, like I said, a lot of support from the franchise that can help people be successful if they have a good business mindset. So I would say the desire to want to impact people, to want to grow, and having some operational and business acumen for sure, and the good finances too, obviously, that you can run a profitable business.
Hey, you mentioned your recruiting experience. In 2020, you started your own small business, Joanna G Consulting, where you're an executive recruiter, trainer, resume writer, and career coach. But it looks like you have a kind of an extensive background in all of that, and it's come in handy with the other things. Tell me about it and how your small business came about.
Yeah. So another great question. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been in recruiting for a long time. I actually, in a prior life, I was a drug and alcohol and mental health caseworker with adolescents and children's in the school system. And it wore on me very quickly. And I decided I wanted to kind of get out of that. But I have a sales background from prior. I sold Cutco cutlery. I don't know if you're familiar with Cutco knives. Yeah. Back in the day, and I was very good at it. Anyway, I got recruited to be an admissions counselor at a college and worked at a couple universities doing recruiting for new students. So that sort of was wet my whistle in recruiting, and I realized how much I loved it. It kind of married my passion of helping people like underprivileged kids, but more in a more professional atmosphere and feeling like I was actually making a difference, getting people signed up for school versus hitting my head against a wall with people that were continually coming back to me for drug and alcohol issues. So then I got recruited from there to be a headhunter with an executive recruiting firm within property management. And things were going well. I went through an acquisition, kind of a separation, a divorce, so to speak, of the partners at the one firm I worked with for a long time, and was retained by the next company to stay on with them. And it was great. An awesome group of people. I mean, I would not be where I am today without that whole group, just because they taught me everything I know about headhunting. And but then in 2020, during the pandemic, we have two small kids. They're both we have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And at the time, we just had a 9-month-old, and our nanny quit with 2 days notice. I've worked from home for 10 years, but full time in my office, door shut, and she quit, and we were like, something's gotta give. Like, Brian needs to quit. I need to quit. One of us needs to do something, or at least take a break to find somebody else to care for our kids. And I made the decision to resign and spend some time with my youngest. So I did that for about 3 months, and then was like, recruiting just pulls me back, and resume writing kind of was my pullback into the recruiting world. 3 months later, I mean, not very long later, and helping candidates write their resumes. I've done a lot of consulting with that. I've done some training for hiring managers and companies on how to effectively interview. Kind of a little bit of everything in that space. And it's been really, really great. And now I wouldn't change it for the world. And I'm so glad that happened.
So you are an executive recruiter. What goes into recruiting that the average person might not know?
So, I mean, what I'm doing is, that's why they call us a headhunter. I mean, I am looking in the internet mostly, and cold calling companies and businesses to find people at an executive level that aren't looking for jobs. So I'm filling positions with companies and clients that have maybe it's a director of property management need, and they want the best of the best. They want someone who's done it before. They don't want to put it on Indeed and get a zillion resumes of people that are unqualified. So they hire me to go out there and find the people that are qualified, that are doing this for their competitors, and then tell them the reasons why this opportunity is compelling, and help them through the process.
How much selling goes into recruiting?
So definitely selling, but it's more skill matching and personality matching than really selling. I don't really think of it as selling. I guess I would call it a pitch, but it's very much. I get to know my candidates. I know what my client wants, and I can tell within 5 minutes of being on the phone with somebody if there's going to be a chemistry match. 9 times out of 10, I'm able to tell my clients when I send that resume to them, like, this is your hire, because I know them and I know the candidate.
You're also a resume writer. What can you tell us about writing resumes that maybe most of us wouldn't know? I feel like I've been writing the same resume for the last 20 years, but in the same style.
Right. I mean, it's a tough world to navigate, and honestly, everybody will tell you something different. Even executive resume writers, So, what you want to do, I always ask my candidates that are having me write their resumes, what have you done different or better than someone else who has the exact same job that you do? What sets you apart from them? Because I don't really care about the bullet points. If you've had this job for 3 years, I know you can handle the duties and responsibilities of it, right? But so, this person has that same exact job. So what did you do that you can speak to that sets you apart, that makes you different? And that's what we kind of highlight when we're going through a resume. So what accomplishments, did you win this award? Did you raise NOI? Did you get creative with something? Did you do some sort of outreach marketing that was unique? Things like that.
Would you say most people write their resumes like that, or do they just list their tasks and kind of what they do?
I mean, I would definitely say the majority are more task related. Like, I feel so many people just take the job description and copy and paste the duties and responsibilities, and but we're not taught. If you're not taught it, I mean, it's hard to know and how to do it and how to do it effectively. And I will always say too, a chronological resume is best, at least in my eyes, where you have your most recent position first, your duties and responsibilities, and then the next one, and accomplishments, I should say, not just duties and responsibilities. Yeah. Versus sometimes people will put like skills and abilities, and they're like, oh, I've done all of these things, but then after it is just like a work history, and you don't know where they did all those things, if that makes sense.
Sure. So we talked about how you guys kind of got involved with Anytime Fitness, and then before that, in I believe it was 2016, your first family business was Gossett Homes. Tell me a little bit about that and how that started and what you guys do.
Yeah, so interesting there too. My husband and I have always had an interest in real estate. We didn't buy our first home till 2014, but shortly after, I mean, we had a friend who's been very successful in real estate in St. Louis, Missouri. And he had always told us to read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know if you've ever read it, but great book. And we ended up reading it, and it kind of lit a fire under us. It's not really a how-to guide to be successful in real estate, but it changed my way of thinking about passive income from real estate. And long story short, we were looking at a couple different rental properties, and then my husband lost his job. I don't even remember who he worked for at the time, but it was in wireless, and very unexpectedly, we're like, ugh, this is bad timing. Like, we're about to close on a loan, right? But we decided to move forward, and I'm so glad we did, because now all of the real estate we own, I mean, we continued to acquire assets following that, all residential at this point. But they're all worth 3 times that now. And it hasn't been that long of a period, but yeah, so we self-manage our properties. We manage a handful for other investors as well. We have short-term rentals as well as long-term. So like Airbnb, vacation rentals, which is its whole own ball game, as well as just, long-term.
How scary was it to do the first one if you hadn't done it before?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was certainly scary, and I'm very conservative mindset, so to speak. And I grew up with 2 parents that both have PhDs, and I was always just taught you go to school, you get a good job, you have a salary, benefits. I mean, I actually quit a job with salary and benefits, the social work job I talked about, to move to Cincinnati, Ohio. I was in Pittsburgh at the time, and I quit and moved to Cincinnati with no job to follow Brian, because that's my husband. He had moved there for a work promotion, and I was applying to all these jobs and not getting anything. And I was just like, I need to be there. When I'm telling these interviewers that I can be there in a week, when I give notice to my boss and this and that. anyway, I took this big leap of faith, and everybody in my family and most of my friends were like, you're crazy. I mean, you're leaving that stability in the field that you went to school for, all the things. And yet again, so glad I did it. Right. So everything looking back has always been like a blessing, and it's really hard to see at the time when you're going through hard things, professionally, personally, whatever. But like, I can't say there's been anything ever in my life where I can't look back and like there was some good or positive that came out of it. And that was one of the things.
So you're involved in 5 different professional endeavors along with your personal life. What does a typical day look like for you? And are there any kind of rituals, I guess, that you consider to be very important?
So every day is different. And my husband even more so. So I still am with our kids, primarily. We have an in-house help too that comes all the time too, or regularly. But yeah, so I mean, my days are spent recruiting, putting out fires, helping with the business stuff. I do all the back end, like accounting, bill pay. We still haven't outsourced any of that because we have 2 locations here and 2 locations here. It's like, can you justify it yet? And to give away the reins on something so important, we're just not ready yet. So I still manage all of that, payroll, employee issues and things like that as well. So it's a little bit, I mean, I do a lot on this every day. My kids see me on it a lot. And a lot of phone calls, with candidates too, depending on what projects I'm engaged in at that exact time.
I have one more question for you, but first tell me how people can find out more about becoming a franchisee with Romeo's and about your consulting service and, anything else that you're involved in.
Yeah. So, to franchisee information, it's Romeo's Pizza franchise.com. Easy. You can fill out a request form on there, and whomever is responsible for the territory that you might be interested in, will get in touch with you. You can find out about my executive recruiting services and the resume writing at Executive JG, my initials, executivejgconsulting.com. And I'm on LinkedIn too. Just search Joanna Gossett and you should find me in South Carolina.
Okay, awesome. Hey, last question. When you go to, or when you order from Romeo's as a customer, what's kind of your go-to item?
Oh, everything's good. But, I would say 2 things. So what had me the first time is our Chicago deep dish. It's called the Italiano. And if you're familiar with Chicago deep dish, the sauce is on top. So it looks kind of weird, especially if you've never seen that. I mean, I've showed it to friends and they're like, ew, what is that? Because the sauce is on top and all the toppings are under it. But it is amazing. It's just so good. I mean, our dough's good. It's a 3-day process to make it, and you can tell when you taste it. And then my second favorite is our thin crust. So we have what's called our thin credible crust, and I like it like kind of all the meats. We have something called the butcher shop, which is basically our like meat lovers. And I love that on a thin crust.
Sounds great. I'm starving now. Hey, Joanna, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts and your insights. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Chad. Take care.
Thank you. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.